Sassy Stuff. This is another episode of Sideline Stories. I'm Emma.
And I'm Bailey. Today we're getting to talk to an amazing sports broadcaster. I'm a little bit biased because he too is also a UA alum. But today we have with us Gray Robertson.
Hi, Bailey. Hi, Emma. Thank you for having me.
And a roll tide to you.
Roll Tide.
Well, thanks for being a part of the show with us, Gray. We know that this is definitely coming off of an interesting time after Bama's game yesterday, but hopefully we're going to have some fun today on this interview and get to ask you questions about your journey in sports broadcasting, but also just kind of get to talk more about your love of the SEC.
I grew up around the conference. I love it with all my heart, and I love my job. So let's do it.
So let's talk about it. So tell the viewers exactly. So where are you from, and how has this shaped your love of the SEC?
So I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. I grew up in a sports family. Both my parents worked in sports event management, event production. They worked with the conference. They worked with a bunch of different schools. So I grew up going to the SEC championship, SEC men's basketball tournament, doing all that from a really young age. My quote unquote favorite personal stat is that I've never missed the SEC football championship. I went as a 11-month-old and have been every year since then. And just seeing sports from that perspective, from behind the scenes, from talking to the people in the conference office at the SEC and getting to know coaches and just people all across various sports has really molded my love for this conference, for the people in it. I love it to my core. I think the people running it do a great job, and I think all the people in it do a great job. And it's just been something that has been tied to my identity since literally birth.
You're truly raised by the SEC.
Absolutely.
Now, how would you describe your unique approach to sports commentary, and what do you believe sets your style apart from other people in the industry?
So I can sometimes be a little insane with my preparation. As you can see behind me, I make these boards for broadcasts, and it is a long task that I crazily enjoy. I really like working 6 hours hunched over a poster board using all my multicolored Sharpies. And I just feel like the amount of preparation that I put into it is something that really helps the viewer and listener understand, even if it's a broadcast on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, which is by definition centered toward the Crimson Tide. I still want to say, well, I watched film on this opposing pitcher. This is what she throws. I've been tracking this team. This is what their story has been since the year began, just because I think it paints a broader picture for the viewer and for the listener so they fully understand the context of what's happening. And I guess the other thing that I really strive for in all my broadcasts is for the chemistry with whomever I'm working with to be truly authentic. I want it to sound like we're friends. I want it to sound like we've known each other for a really long time. And that's something that has always been really important to me. If I'm working with somebody new, I like to get lunch or coffee or something with them before. And then I've been lucky that pretty much everybody I've worked with has actually become a legitimate friend. I did volleyball earlier today with Lane Rizzo, and before we broadcast, before we have to do all of our duties pre-show, we like to take walks around the top of Foster Auditorium and just talk about life and catch up and see what each other's been up to since we last spoke. So that's something that is really, really important to me, and I feel like is something that makes broadcasts better, because if it sounds like the people don't know each other, don't have chemistry, you can tell. And I never want that to be something that happens on a show that I'm working on.
Well, now I'm actually looking at the background behind you and seeing your board is great. That's a pretty amazing. I mean, what you're doing is just unbelievable. I love the fact that you're so personal to this, but I'm curious though, how did you discover this method though of preparation when doing all these fantastic boards behind you? Like, what made you decide to do that?
Well, I learned that if I write it myself, I will memorize it a lot better. A lot of people have said over the years, "Why don't you just type it up?" It doesn't do it for me. I don't know what that says about my brain or what that says about me, but I this is the most OCD thing I do. Like, everything has to be the colors of a team for each team. Everything's got a square. Every board that I've made since high school looks pretty much the exact same. I just shift it for different sports, and I kind of freak out if I mess up or if it looks different or whatever. But yeah, this was something that Tim Brando has mentioned to me years ago, how he prepares. Yes, thumbs up. And it just was something that worked best for me. The different colors, the formatting, writing it by hand. It made it committed to memory a little bit better, I guess.
So you're
That's fantastic.
definitely a visual learner then.
For sure.
Yeah. Anything else in your preparation process that you do to make sure you deliver your best performance? Like you have to put on the right tie or something like that?
So I try and rotate the suits as best I can. You know, it's hard with a softball 3 game series. It's like, all right, I can't wear the same thing every day. So I've got to kind of pick out. But I guess, okay, here we go. I do have a specific playlist that I listen to before broadcasts and before different broadcasts. For softball radio, it'll be some of the girls' walk up songs. For TV, it'll be, I've kind of got like 8 songs that I'll shuffle, and they typically change each year, but there are a couple that have reigned supreme over the years.
Care
Can you
to
give us
elaborate?
one?
Clarity is it's a banger, and I greatly enjoy. Like I will, even if I park, I'll say, you know, I'm gonna wait the extra 30 seconds for the beat to drop and then go in, and it just gets me in the right headspace. And I know that that sounds insane, but it you know, it's fun.
I love that.
That is so authentic to you, though. I think that is incredible. But you, like you were saying, though, I mean, you've been around the SEC your entire life. So, with choosing to get involved with sports broadcasting and sports commentating, what exactly made the light bulb go off for you of like, hey, I really do want to pursue this as a career?
I guess just caring enough about it that I wanted to talk about it. That was the main thing. I started a show in 6th grade. We now know those as podcasts. I called it a radio show then, I just wanted to talk about stuff. I want to talk about football. I want to talk about basketball, and just wanting to discuss things and have those conversations with people and to hear from people who are much smarter than me, their opinions about certain things. That was just something that I was always interested in. And I got lucky that I had multiple avenues growing up where that was possible, where the podcast scene was just kind of bursting when I was in middle school, and, you know, going to high school to a place that allowed me to continue that show and to become a play-by-play broadcaster for high school football and basketball and multiple other things. And then to have that luck me into a job at Alabama my freshman year. Like it all just it kind of worked out, and it all came from this place of just wanting to talk about stuff and to tell stories and have those conversations. That's always fascinated me the most. And the ability to now tell the stories of athletes and coaches, especially some stories that, you know, for softball, volleyball, you know, a lot of the Olympic sports that a lot of people might not know, that gives me a thrill.
Well, speaking about your career a little bit, what's been the most challenging aspect of your career so far? And then what's the most rewarding?
The most rewarding is 100% the friendships and relationships, and not just with people I work with on camera, but also off camera. You know, I've loved working with so many producers over the years, and but also, you know, people, coaches and players and other media people. I mean, just before I hopped on here, I was texting a couple folks from ESPN who cover softball, and we've all become good friends over the years. And it's just the various communities that I've been able to tap into, and those friendships and relationships that have come from that, certainly is the most rewarding part. And there are a lot of friendships that I'll cherish forever, that truly make this a ton of fun. The most difficult part is sometimes I try and do everything, which one of my mottos is, you know, I'm always going to say yes. I think I've turned down a game like 1 time ever. But sometimes that leads to very stressful weeks of preparation. So like this upcoming weekend, I'll have volleyball Friday, volleyball Sunday with a football postgame show broadcast in between on Saturday. And I'm trying to mentally figure out, okay, how do I appropriately prepare for Friday volleyball, change it for Sunday, even though one of the teams is the same. And sometimes, you know, sometimes there's not enough time in the day, honestly.
Never. I wish there was.
Well, it's so interesting to hear you say you got a job your freshman year with the university when you were a student at Alabama. I mean, that's a pretty epic culture to get to be immersed into as a freshman. How has that culture shaped the beginnings of your career, and how has that continued to influence you in all that you've done to this day?
I would say that I got so extremely lucky, not just getting that job, but also the sport that I got, which was softball. And softball here at Alabama, Coach Murphy's been here for 25 plus years. It's a program of excellence. I will say the couple weeks that I joined was kind of like one of the weaker parts. There were some losses in there, and I'm glad that they kept me around and didn't think I was the reason for those losses. But yeah, I just my freshman year I was terrified. I was hopping in with this guy who'd done it for a couple years, Tom Canterbury, and this was a program that is so it's such a family already. It feels weird to kind of jump in, especially as a freshman in college. You're already scared of everything, and I got so lucky because that family accepted me, and now we hang out every day. Various members of the support staff, the coaching staff has been great. Players have come and gone, but I've still got friends of those who graduated. Getting to know the kids when they arrive is so great, and it helps me to truly be able to tell their stories and to understand more about the sport itself. There have been so many times where I didn't play softball growing up. I obviously, and I learned so much talking to the coaches and talking to the players in the early days, and that's just made me better. And now Tom and I are about to, in the spring, begin our 9th year working together. And it's the best job I've ever had, and it's because that family welcomed me in and showed me what it can be when you're a part of a program. And I've been able to kind of put that part of myself into all the other sports that I cover as well.
It's incredible.
So obviously you're deeply ingrained with the University of Alabama, as am I. I know that I don't like people being around me when I watch Bama games. I get a little passionate. So as a commentator, how do you remain impartial during these broadcasts? Do you find this difficult? I know I would.
Well, all right. So it's always interesting because I think back to something that a very famous, I'm not going to name drop, but a TV broadcaster who a lot of people, especially on this channel, will probably know. And he told me he gets a lot of flack from all sides. And he one time told me if both sides are mad at you, you probably said something right. And so there was a time last year where I did an Alabama softball game, and I had Alabama fans in my mentions being like, "Wow, you're so biased towards Virginia Tech." And I was like, "Okay, I did it. That makes me feel like it was at least a somewhat middling show." TV broadcasts are always 50-50. That's the way I view it. That's the way the people I work with view it. Our producers, ESPN. That's how they want it to be, and I strive 100% to bring that perspective as much as possible. Are there times maybe where my voice gets a little bit more up when Alabama does something? Probably. And usually when that happens, my producer will say something and we'll correct it. But it's mainly just that whenever I work with somebody, the real thing that we want is just an exciting game. I think that's really what all broadcasters want. Whenever you're calling a game, if it gets one-sided, then the commentary is going to sound one-sided. But if the game is good, if it's exciting, if it's even, then the 50-50ness is going to come out naturally just because that's the way that the story is being told on the field. So that's kind of how I try and do it. I try and just be a storyteller and tell both sides. Radio broadcasts, because it's on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, we're a little bit more skewed towards Alabama, but the football postgame show, it's been a completely different way of watching football because I'm actually truly now not just watching as a fan, but watching analytically and paying attention to everything that I see, not just watching the ball, but watching everything else, studying various formations and tendencies and tracking a ton of stuff in my notes. And that's been really, really interesting this year because it's frankly been a brand new way for me to watch college football. I've never really had to do that before, and it's been a lot of fun.
Well, like you said that too, Gray, I mean, definitely getting to be a storyteller is a part of the career path that you've chosen, and you're clearly excellent at it. You can tell us, I mean, again, we're all UA alums here, so you can tell us a little bit of a secret, but there has to be at least one moment, any sport at UA, that has a special place in your heart. Is there one moment in particular during a game that comes to mind?
I will give two that I immediately think of. One radio, one TV. Radio, it had to be the board is this one over here. The Montana Fouts perfect game at the World Series against UCLA.
Oh,
Just to watch the history. I mean, we do the Out of the Box podcast, Tom and me, where we talk softball all year. We came into the season saying UCLA might have a generationally great team, and to beat them at the World Series, to have it be with Montana throwing a perfect game on her 21st birthday, to have a game where you strike first in the first inning against Rachel Garcia, and that's the best pitcher in the world at that time. And it was just, it's a memory I'm never going to forget. And it was a game that I think truly stands out, not just in the history of Alabama softball, but of World Series history, which was so cool to be a very, very, very tiny part of. The TV version is 100% Duke, Alabama soccer. This was the Elite Eight. Alabama had never been to the College Cup, which is the Final Four of women's soccer. Never been there. Never even really been this far in the tournament ever. This was a historic year. And Haley McDonald and I got to call that game. This was the Friday before the Iron Bowl, the Friday after Thanksgiving. She's out in Florida. I'm over in our studio, and somehow we made it work. The broadcast was really good, but also it went to overtime, and it ended with Reina Reyes getting a goal to give Alabama the 3-2 lead late in the first overtime period. And the crowd was electric. And to call that part of history was really, really fun. It was a dramatic game. Alabama went up 2-0, and then Duke scored behind their best player twice in about a 5-minute span. It was so awesome. And I don't get to do a ton of soccer games because in the fall I'm usually on volleyball, but that was kind of an indelible memory in my head. And the fact that I felt really proud about the show that we had put together with Alex producing and me and Haley on the call, it's one of those that will never ever leave me.
Sounds like some pretty epic games there, my friend. Some pretty epic things that you've seen. Oh my goodness. I mean, take aside all the amazing sports you've gotten to witness. Let's talk about the Southeastern Conference real fast. I mean, this conference as a whole is so special and it's so unique. And what exactly about the SEC makes it stand out to you from the broadcasting side?
I would say it is the passion. That is such a basic answer, but it's true. The fans, the players, when you come to the SEC, when you cheer for an SEC team, it is the most important thing to you on that day when you're cheering for that team. But I also think the commitment of all the schools and the conference office to make sure that everything's good, because it would be really easy for us to sit here and talk about football all the time. And there's reason for that, because Southeastern Conference football is historically in the last 30 years unmatched by any other league. But it's also the commitment to men's basketball. You know, Alabama men's basketball, that great run last year, the league is going to be even deeper this year. It's volleyball, it's gymnastics, it's softball, it's baseball, it's all the sports. It's the commitment behind everything, so that that passion isn't just in a football stadium on Saturday. We also saw it today at volleyball when Alabama played Kentucky, and then saw it at softball Friday night when it was a packed standing room only crowd for a fall ball game, an exhibition, a game that does not matter. And it was filled to the brim with people in the grandstands. And that to me is what sets this league aside, because there's so much care about everything in the conference. It's not just, there are some leagues where they put that emphasis in football and they don't necessarily do that for the other sports. And in the SEC, you'll see that the facilities are unmatched, and that leads to game day atmospheres, no matter what sport you're talking about or watching, that you don't get anywhere else in the country.
So with all those atmospheres comes the rivalries that go to the atmospheres. So which one of these SEC matchups, these rivalries, is your favorite?
Oh boy. Oh no.
A hard one.
Timing is bad, but it's a Tennessee rivalry that sticks out because, kind of, again, it's not just football. And as much fun as it is to smoke them if you got them, unfortunately, we did not have to do that yesterday, although I did have a cigar and cutter and lighter all ready to go. Save it for next year. But it's also the other sports. Alabama, Tennessee basketball has been really, really fun. Alabama, Tennessee women's basketball the last few seasons has been really exciting. Christy Curry's kind of got the Lady Vols number. Softball, we've played them like 14 times the last 2 years. The baseball rivalry has been strong for a while, and I'm sure there are others that I'm forgetting. But Alabama, Tennessee, it just always feels like there's a collision course somewhere, and that whatever is happening that day and whatever sport it is, it matters, not just because it's a rivalry, but also for something down the road. Also, obviously, the Iron Bowl. I mean, it's just got that extra juice, and yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say about the Iron Bowl besides like there's just a natural feeling when you're on a side in that rivalry.
Well, as someone who's been going to SEC championship games since they were 11 months old, I'm sure that you have probably seen some pretty epic SEC matchups in your entire lifetime. from commentating on them to actually experiencing them as a fan. What has been the most thrilling SEC matchup that you have witnessed so far in your lifetime?
Oh boy. Well, I'll tell you what, the Alabama Georgia game a couple weeks ago in Bryant Denny, that was probably top 2 or 3
Oh,
best game
crazy.
day atmosphere at Club BDS, as we call it, that I've ever seen. I mean, it was cranking. I think, say what you want about the security situation, but the fact that everybody had to be in the stadium basically at 5 o'clock for a 6:50 kick just kind of ramped it up even more. So while it was a pain to get in, my gosh, it made the atmosphere even better. And that one is up there. But the two that really truly are the best are other Alabama Georgia matchups. Obviously, second and 26. I don't even really know if I actually saw the play because I was so distraught about the sack, and then I was tackled from behind by somebody. It just, I really, it was all a blur. And then also the year where Alabama won the national championship against Notre Dame with that another Georgia Alabama SEC championship where Georgia took the lead, and then Alabama came back, and then Georgia was driving, and then Chris Conley caught that pass that he probably shouldn't have, and the clock ran out. That was as topsy turvy emotionally a game as I could remember at that point. And it was also, there were 1,000 reviews, I feel like, in the last 5 minutes and timeouts, and both fan bases were absolutely going crazy. Georgia had a lot of people there. Alabama had a lot of people there because it was still kind of new going to the SEC championship all the time. So people were still flocking there 100%. And that game was such a roller coaster. I, I still don't really know 100% what I saw, but it was fun and it was an Alabama win.
Now, looking at these big games, when you're calling a big game, is there like pressure on it? Are the emotions high, the stakes even higher that you have to make sure you get this right to deliver to the fans?
That is, yes, I would say 100%. And it feels like a real honor. I mean, I remember the first time, when you're working in softball, OKC is the promised land. You want to get to the World Series. And I remember in 2019, the first time I walked into that radio booth at the World Series, it felt like such a big deal because you could see 15,000 people in the stands and you could see everything that you'd been hearing about the years prior about what it would be like at Hall of Fame Stadium. And it was so humbling to kind of get to sit in that chair and to talk about softball. And I really wanted everything I said to be right. And thankfully they had a monitor in there so I could confirm some of my analysis. But stuff like that, like when you're in a big setting, it feels like I don't even know what the word is, which is probably not good because my job is to come up with words. But it feels it's otherworldly, honestly, to feel like you're on that stage and to get to watch student athletes, especially ones that you get to know, perform on that stage and to get a chance to shine on that stage. And that's 100% really, really cool. And it adds to the fun of the job.
That's pretty epic, right? I mean, there's so many changes we're seeing happen just in sports period as we continue to evolve, but especially with things happening in the SEC this past year. It's pretty epic the changes I know that you've witnessed in your 9 years of calling and commentating on these different games. We've seen so many different changes from Oklahoma, Texas joining to NIL to all the different things. I mean, how do you see the SEC continue to evolve within the next 5 to 10 years?
I think that I think that my fears about college sports do not necessarily go into the SEC because of some of the stuff that we've talked about, because of the commitment to everything. But I do have concerns, and I talk to coaches who have concerns about the future of the non-football sports, honestly, and the non-basketball sports because of how money is being funneled in college athletics nowadays because of NIL. And a lot of coaches have concerns about what is essentially becoming pay for play in a lot of cases. You got to put a number out there if you want to get this transfer portal kid. And that's another thing that has kind of gone into various sports besides football. But I think what will help the SEC is the commitment and the fact that that commitment has been longstanding. I'm not worried about SEC teams dropping sports just yet. I am a little bit about certain teams around the country. But I also think it's really exciting that you're in this new level of competitiveness with the addition of Oklahoma and Texas, because you add two programs who are good at everything. I mean, Oklahoma just won 4 national championships in softball. They've won multiple in gymnastics recently. Texas women's basketball is a force. Texas volleyball. They are insanely talented. Yes, thumbs up again. Insanely talented, coming off of a couple national championships. Football, obviously. I mean, last night they did not play well against Georgia, but Texas was the number 1 team in the country. Men's basketball. I mean, you've got across the board 2 programs that instantly come in and are capable of competing for a conference or national championship. And that makes it harder on everybody, but it makes it really fun to cover because every week is truly a grind at every level and every aspect of this conference, no matter the sport.
Yeah, we talk a lot about NIL deals and the additions of teams to new conferences all the time. And we always say that there's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad. And it's kind of figuring out how to make it all work together. It's not going to happen this year, but hopefully in the future, we will see everything flourish for the better. But outside of what you do you have any hidden talents or passions outside of sports that might surprise people?
Well, I don't know if it would surprise people that know me. I watch movies religiously, and it's led to me bothering Tom by making us do a movie spinoff pod. We call it Out of the Box Office, and it's where we like review movies and stuff. And I'll do my top 10 films of the year, and I might go see a movie tonight. I don't know. There are a couple good things in theaters I might go check out or might go tomorrow. But yeah, I'm addicted to movies. I watched a movie last night for some reason because I was like, I need to calm down. What can I crank up? And yeah, that the movies thing. Although honestly, like I really don't do much outside of sports. If I'm not talking about sports or preparing to talk about sports, I'm usually playing sports or hanging out with people who work in sports. So that really kind of has been in a lot of ways my focus for almost a decade now.
Well, the beautiful thing about sports is it brings people together. So
right.
What could be bad about that? So what's the next movie that you're going to watch?
Oh gosh, I have a whole list of like 25 movies that are coming out up until New Year's Eve that I have to go see. So I don't know which one is next. I think Saturday night is in the theater in Tuscaloosa. I need to go see that. There are a couple others.
It's pretty good.
As you know, as people who went to Alabama, sometimes the theater here not super up to date on the releases. So there are some things like We Live in Time is coming out this weekend, I believe. It's at like one theater in Birmingham.
That's gonna make me cry.
I can't wait. I am a weepy mess often.
Yeah.
Often, including on the air once a year.
Yeah.
Wait, great. I have a question though now. What was on your top 10 movies of 2023? I'm curious.
Oh, hold on. Let me pull it up.
He's ready. This is great.
He got it.
Yeah. So I listen to a lot of movie podcasts. I was introduced to the app Letterboxd. It's so easy to track everything and to just lay it out. Okay. Top 10 movies for, okay. Number 10 was The Iron Claw.
I love that movie.
Number 9 was The Killer.
Okay.
Number 8 was May December. 7 was All the Strangers.
Okay.
6 was Anatomy of a Fall.
That's a great film.
5, I Gotta Be Me, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
You want to talk about being a weepy mess. I cry every time I watch that movie.
I need the next one.
4, Past Lives.
Of course.
Again, wept. 3, Killers of the Flower Moon. 2, Oppenheimer. 1, The Holdovers.
Okay. I thought you were going to put Oppenheimer first, but I like it.
These are some good racks. I'm like, Graham, I have to start taking out some notes real fast. My God.
Yeah, I probably had 30 movies ranked, but that was the top 10 of like the good stuff. You know, I don't necessarily feel like I need to rank some of the fluff. Sorry if you direct or star in a fluff movie, people watching.
We like fluff. Fluff is good, but not on the top 10 list.
Right.
Take away from the emotion, especially after last night's game. We've had enough of those the past couple of years.
Yeah, honestly, now's the time to go see We Live in Time. This is it.
Get all your emotions in.
Well, great. We're going to introduce actually a new segment with you today. So this is a fun little fast-paced segment that we are called First and Fast. And the rules are really simple. We're going to throw out a word or a phrase related to the college football or SEC or a coach to you.
Okay.
And then you're going to respond with the first thought or word that comes to mind. No overthinking, just a general reaction. Is that good?
You have 1 minute. We're only going to set the timer for 60 seconds. And Emma's going to start us off with the first word.
Okay, I'm ready.
Ready?
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
Crimson Tide.
Champions.
Nick Saban.
Champion.
The Swamp.
Sticky.
War Eagle.
That's good enough.
That's all I got.
The Kick Six.
Oh gosh. Never again.
Rocky Top.
A lot of orange.
Dixieland Delight.
Ours.
12th Man.
Very nice. Got a lot of family who are Aggies, so yeah, love the 12th Man.
Saturday Night in Death Valley.
Terrifying.
Iron Bowl.
Ferocious.
Lane Kiffin.
Offensive
genius who wins 9 games.
Corn Dogs.
Les Miles.
That's time, guys. That was great. Thanks for being such a good sport and for playing that game with us. We're like, there's such a greater list we have behind this. I'm excited to have to ask you questions off camera throughout the rest of the season. Get your hot takes on that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was worried I was going to say something to get me in trouble, but you know what? I think we survived. So I think it's fine.
You crushed. Well, great. Thank you so much for being a part of this show today and getting to just share more about your story and what it is that you do. And kind of a question for you as well. Where do you see your career continue to go in the next 5 to 10 years?
I don't know where, but I want to keep telling stories. You know, I want to keep talking about all sports. Like, as much fun as it would be to do football all the time, like, I get so much joy covering basketball and softball and volleyball, and like, I want to do everything, which sounds insane, but I want to keep telling stories, and wherever I have to do that, I'm going to do that. I'm going to work as hard as I can, and will continue to work as hard as I can to make sure I have that capability.
Well, knowing you, it sounds pretty undoubtable that we will definitely be seeing your face on many screens to come in the many years ahead, where you have been killing it. So thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be with us. And also tell our viewers too how they can follow you and also follow the different podcasts and radio shows and broadcasts that you're doing.
Well, all right. So you can follow the Out of the Box podcast on all podcast platforms. If you just search Out of the Box, you'll see me and Tom's name. And yeah, we're doing media days very soon. So we're going to talk to every head coach in the SEC. And that's always a ton of fun. I think we got South Carolina this week. And then we just sent out the emails, so schedules are still working. But yeah, Out of the Box _pod. I'm at Gray, Gray _Robertson on the X or Twitter, or whatever we call it. I'm also everywhere else. If you search, there aren't many Gray Robertsons. And yeah, you can listen to the Everwood Crimson Tide postgame party about an hour after every Alabama game ends on all Crimson Tide Sports Network affiliates. Me and Christian Miller, we have a substantive conversation. We react, but we have the discussions that are caused by some of the reactions that we see around the country to what happens in an Alabama game. And it's a ton of fun. It's about an hour. And yeah, so tune in there and tune into softball and watch Alabama athletics. And odds are I'll probably pop up somewhere if you watch any kind of Alabama game.
That's awesome. We'll finish this with a Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you for being here.